welcome to the Reflections Anxiety Workshop. My name's Lucy and I'm one of the specialist mental health practitioners within the Reflections team. So today we're going to be looking at what anxiety is, we're going to be looking at what the signs and symptoms of anxiety are, and also giving you some really good useful strategies of what you can use to help yourself calm those levels of anxiety down. We'll also give you some really useful information links for you to also go away and have a look at. So first of all, it's good to know what anxiety is and why we have it. So anxiety is a normal human feeling of fear and panic. So particularly when we're facing situations which are quite stressful for us, and this could be, taking exams, doing public speaking, reading in front of others, and competing within a sport, or when you're preparing yourself to perform as well. It's something that we all have and we will all experience at some point within our lives, and as its main function is to keep us safe. If we didn't have anxiety, we would be in big trouble. As soon as we start to perceive that we are in danger, we begin to sense we're in danger or think something bad is about to happen, what happens is our brain kicks into a high alert and starts to prepare our bodies for us to react to whatever danger we think that we're in. And this is commonly known as our fight, flight or freeze response. And this response puts us on high alert, so it makes us feel on edge, more alert, so we know what's going on around us, so we can react fast. It makes the heart start to beat really fast, so it can pump all that blood around the body, particularly into areas where it's needed the most, for example the legs, so we can run off quick. So this reaction actually dates back millions of years ago. So this is when we first started to evolve this reaction. So when we possibly lived in jungles where we were surrounded by animals that were quite dangerous, that would see us as their next meal. So anxiety isn't actually a bad thing. It keeps us safe. However, in today's world, we no longer have the same threats as we did a million years ago when we were running away from tigers and lions, and we don't have them roaming around the streets looking for their next meal. But regardless, if our brain perceives something as a danger, even if there is no life or death threat present, our brain doesn't know the difference between a lion trying to eat us and public speaking or the stress of taking an exam. So our brain reacts in exactly the same way. So it triggers that fight, flight or freeze response. So it sets off that alarm. So in some situations, when we are experiencing anxiety, it can be really helpful. So as it releases, as it gets us prepared, it gets us focused, it can really help to motivate and keep us focused within things like exams, and again like performances or competing in athletic events as well. But also anxiety can become a problem, and the difference is when it becomes a problem is when it really impacts on our ability to engage in activities we find useful, and also impacts on our ability to live a fulfilled life as we would want to. Towards the end of the workshop, we will look at ways in which we can calm down our levels of anxiety into a more manageable levels. But first of all, we're going to have a more in-depth look at the signs and symptoms to help us recognise when we are in the moment of anxiety.
Hi, my name is Beth and I am an education mental health practitioner for the Reflections team in Sandwell. We've just had a brief introduction about what anxiety is, and I just want to take a moment now to talk about the signs and symptoms of anxiety. You know, worry and stress are normal, and particularly at this time of life in school, there may be a series of worries that you're experiencing, maybe around acceptance of peers, could be about your grades and upcoming exams, or even a family situation. But it's really important that we make the distinction between worry and an anxiety disorder. See, when we have an anxiety disorder, our worries tend to be irrational, excessive, and they tend to get in the way of us engaging in everyday activities. And when we have anxiety, it tends to impact upon the way we think, feel, and behave. And I just want to take a moment now to think about the signs and symptoms of anxiety relating to each of those areas. So let's start off with our thoughts. The kind of thoughts we may be experiencing if we have anxiety, we may be thinking that danger is everywhere. We may find ourselves thinking that something bad is going to happen a lot of the time. We may experience a lot of what if worries. Or we may find ourselves being overly critical about ourselves or overly perfectionistic. Moving on to our feelings. This relates to the emotions that we might experience when we have anxiety. Things such as fear, or worry, or dread. You may even find yourself getting angry or more irritable. And our feelings don't just relate to emotions, it's also physical symptoms, what we feel in our body. Things such as tightness in our chest. We might find ourselves getting a headache and finding it difficult to concentrate. We may find ourselves feeling maybe a bit sick at times. Moving on then to our behaviours. This relates to what we do every day. We may find ourselves checking over and over again that things are okay. We may look for reassurance from somebody or in something. We may even depend on something or someone to get us through a particular situation as well. We may over-prepare or rehearse something or even research into something. And finally, we may actually avoid the situation that is causing us anxiety, which is fine in the short term because we don't experience anxiety in that moment. But actually, avoidance doesn't solve the problem. In fact, it can actually become the problem in itself because we're not able to live life to the full. So we want to provide you with some really helpful coping strategies that you can try in the home, out and about, and in the classroom.
Hi everyone, my name's Leah and I'm one of the education mental health practitioners in the Reflections team in Sandwell. I'm going to be talking you through some strategies and techniques that can be really helpful for calming feelings of anxiety. Firstly, we have breathing techniques. Our breath is really important for calming feelings of anxiety because short and shallow breaths are related to feelings of anxiety, whereas long, deep breaths are related to feelings of relaxation and calmness. So to help us to take these longer and slower breaths, we can use breathing techniques. The first technique that I'd like to talk to you about is called the triangle. So with the triangle, we start at the bottom edge, and as we make our way up to the top point of the triangle, we'll breathe in through our nose for 4 seconds. And as we make our way back down, we hold our breath for 4 seconds. And as we make our way back to where we began, we exhale deeply for 6 seconds. So with the triangle, we recommend doing this at least 4 or 5 times to feel the benefit. So another breathing technique is called the hand. So with the hand, we start at the bottom of the thumb and we trace the outer edge whilst we breathe in. And then we breathe out as we work our way back towards the hand. And then we breathe in as we work towards the top of our finger. And then we breathe out as we go back down. And then we'll follow this pattern, breathing in and out as we go up and down our fingers till we reach this side. And when we get here, we will inhale again, breathing in and out and in and out as we trace our hand all the way back down to where we began. And again, we'd recommend doing this one at least 4 or 5 times to feel the benefit. So with these breathing techniques, it can be quite difficult for us to be able to breathe for for that long. So what we'd recommend is practicing these techniques when we're a couple of times a day, maybe when we're not feeling anxious, so then we can train our breath to be able to breathe longer and deeper. So then when we are in the moment, when we're feeling anxious, we can use these techniques to ease our feelings of anxiety more quickly. So next we have grounding techniques. So grounding techniques are all about engaging our 5 senses and bringing us back into the present moment. When we're anxious, we're usually anticipating that something bad is going to happen to us in the future. But these grounding techniques can bring us back into the present moment, out of our worries about the future, and distract us from those anxious thoughts that lead to anxious feelings. So the first grounding technique is called the 5 senses. So with the 5 senses, we take in the space around us, we take a moment to think about where we are, and we look around the room and we firstly notice 5 things that we can see. And as we do this, we use descriptive words to mentally note 5 items that we can see. So we could, for example, use the fluffy carpet. After this, we will mentally note 4 things that we can touch. Again, using lots of descriptive words, so the smooth or cold table. And these can be things that we can physically grab, but also maybe things that are engaging our sense of touch. So for example, I can feel my glasses and my nose. I'm really thinking about how that feels. So is it heavy? Is it light? And once we've done this, we then move on to noting 3 things that we can hear. So taking a moment to think about, to take in some sounds that are around us that we might have blocked out due to having lots of busy thoughts or being quite busy. So we might hear the sound of some traffic outside, or the sound of a clock ticking on the wall that maybe we didn't notice before. Next, we will name 2 things that we can smell. So these can be faint smells, strong smells. If there isn't anything that we can smell directly, if there isn't anything that's engaging our sense of smell, we can look around the room to try and spot something that isn't close enough for us to smell, but we know it has quite a strong smell. So if we saw a mug of coffee, for example, we know that coffee's got quite a distinct and strong smell, so really imagining what that smells like. Finally, we will name 1 thing that we can taste. So it's really helpful to have a chewing gum or a mint or a sweet to eat, and then we will mentally note all the flavours, all the different sensations in our mouth. So that's the 5 senses. Next grounding technique is called the colour spot. So the colour spot is all about choosing a colour. It's really simple. Choose a colour, and then we name all the objects in the room that are that colour, and we can do this as many times as we would like. There are thousands of different colour options, so it's a really good one to help to ground us in the present moment.
So some of the really good strategies what you can do to calm down those heightened levels of anxiety are things like whole body relaxation, deep pressure stimulation, and slow eye movement tracking. Those are really good other strategies what we can be using. So the whole body relaxation, we can use a technique called progressive muscle relaxation. And to do this, all you need to do is lie down on the floor or on your bed, or sit on a chair, making sure that your whole body is supported, and make sure nothing's crossed. And then we start from our toes and work up through each muscle of our body, each body part, tensing and holding for 4 seconds and then releasing. So you start off at your toes, work up to tense the legs, the core area, the arms, the fists, the shoulders and the head. And to finish off, it's nice to tense up all the muscles in the whole body as tight as you can without causing any harm or pain. If it's painful, don't do it. Hold for the 4 seconds and then release. And that really helps to relax those muscles. When we are anxious, our muscles tend to tense up, and that's because we're in this fight or flight freeze mode, so our bodies are getting prepared to fight. With the progressive muscle relaxation, it switches off that tension and relaxes the muscles. So then it switches off that fight or flight freeze mode, because the brain's saying, oh, my body's relaxed, I mustn't be in any danger, so I don't need to be on high alert. So that's a really, really helpful strategy that you can use to switch off that response. Deep pressure stimulation is really simple. What it does, it again, same effect, tells the brain this is a really nice, deep, calming input that I'm receiving. I mustn't be in any danger. It helps to calm that body back down. So all you need to do is press the hands together, and then that gives those messages to the brain that this is a calm input, I mustn't be in any danger, and it switches off that fight, flight, freeze response. Slow eye movement tracking is also a really good one, and that you can do pretty much anywhere. So when you're in class, when you're out somewhere, you can practice this, and it's pretty simple as well. So you can just take a pen, or you can just use your finger if you like, and you just slowly follow the pen or the finger from side to side, and again, exactly the same effect. It brings your focus to something different, but it also tells your brain that it's not in any danger because your eyes are moving slowly. When we are in that state of anxiety where we're in fight, flight or freeze and we're getting ready to attack, we're on high alert and our eyes tend to shift from side to side. We're calming it down using the slow eye track movements. So those are some other strategies what you can use within your toolbox to help calm down that anxiety when you're in the moment.
Whilst it's good to have lots of tips and techniques to use in the moment when we are feeling anxious and those inevitable feelings crop up in life, it's really important to remember that our mood is directly determined by the things that we incorporate into our daily routine. Activities that have a positive impact on our overall mental well-being include exercise. Incorporating some exercise into your daily routine has been proven to contribute to more positive mental well-being and reduce the symptoms of anxiety and low mood. Please don't feel the pressure to spend hours in the gym lifting weights or running. Try to make exercise fun. Try to find something that you find enjoyable, because that increases the likelihood of you incorporating this into your daily routine. And just 15 minutes a day is enough to boost your mood. Sleep routine. Another important area is sleep. So getting into a good sleep routine sets you up for a positive and productive day. So try to think back to the last time you had a rubbish night's sleep. How did you feel the next day? Probably tired, sluggish, and maybe even miserable. And having a good night's sleep is going to have the opposite impact on your mood. So try to get into a good sleep routine, making sure that you get at least 8 hours each night. Connecting with others. As well as this, we should make time for connecting with others daily. Whilst this has been difficult during the coronavirus pandemic, ensuring that we connect with others gives us a space to give and receive support when we might not be feeling so great. Also, just chatting to someone for 15 minutes a day, sharing positive experiences with our friends and family is going to have a direct impact on your mood and make you feel better overall. So these are just a few things that we can make sure that we're doing every day that will help us to feel happier.
We really hope you've enjoyed this presentation brought to you by our Reflections team in Sandwell. We hope you've taken something away from it, and we just want to encourage you once again that if you are experiencing anxiety, find somebody that you can speak to in order to get the right support for you. At the end of this presentation, there'll be some useful web links that will provide further information for you. Thank you so much for listening, and take care.